This book is unlike anything I've ever read. I've been asked a few times if I've read any classics or if I plan on reading any classics. And that's such an interesting term, classic. What is a classic? What would you define as a classic? Is it something that's really old or something that's really timeless? Something that's really popular? I don't know. I have read old books. I've read books from the 40s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. I mean, it's 2025 now, so I feel like anything from 2005 can be a classic. Well, this book was published, I believe, in 1992. And this is one of the first books that feels like a true classic. I feel like I'm actually reading a literary classic. I know I've mentioned this a couple times in my videos. This is the first time I'm reading Cormac McCarthy as an adult. I did read The Road when I was 21, about 10 years ago. Looking back at it, I did enjoy this book. But I felt like I didn't have the capacity to fully appreciate the scope and messaging of The Road. So, reading a Cormac McCarthy book at the age of 31, as an adult, this was an experience. Right from the very first sentence, I knew I was reading something completely different. Cormac McCarthy's writing style is truly one of a kind. I don't know how to put it, but his writing style feels ancient, old, mythical, distant, and lonely, dark. And I mean literally dark because of the weather. The weather in this book, not a lot of sunshine. And I think that makes sense based on the tone of the story. There is a power and an authority in Cormac McCarthy's writing style. It's simple, it's minimal, it's punctual, and it's impactful. It hits you between the eyes, whether you know it or not. McCarthy is also known for his lack of traditional dialogue. He doesn't use quotation marks and commas. It's very just statement after statement after statement. Boom, boom, boom. It's direct. He also doesn't use a lot of similes. Like the clouds look like this. The horse rode like this. All of these little aspects and creative choices really help get across his tone. This really dark and bleak tone. Desolate at times. I don't know, it's a writing style that I really felt deep within me. In the beginning, I didn't quite understand what was going on. I got the gist of it, but the deep details, not so much. The philosophical undertones, As I'm reading it, I might not be understanding everything that's going on, but there's this knot building up inside me, subconsciously. I'd have conflicting feelings knotted up in my stomach. Loneliness and friendship and hope and sorrow and, beauty and just, I am not making much sense right now. And it's probably because I don't have my coffee. And about that, let's go make some coffee. Howdy there, partner. Hi. We're at the part of the video where I'm going to demonstrate how to make coffee, but not just any coffee. We're going to make Cowboy Coffee. I think it's quite fitting for the genre of book that I am reviewing and the book that I read, being a Western. I enjoy my coffee either through just drip methods, Chemex, pour over, or French press. But Cowboy Coffee is a bit different. They go against the rules of your typical brewing method for coffee. So the recipe is 4 cups of water and a 1/4 cup of coffee, although I'm going to add a bit more. I learned this method from a YouTuber, quite famous YouTuber, and he's not so much a YouTuber. He's much more. He is a cowboy, an actual cowboy rancher. His name's Kent Rollins. I don't know if you've heard of him. He does awesome recipes online, and one of which is Cowboy Coffee. I'm trying to mimic his recipe, although I think his method is much more authentic to the campfire cowboy experience. So yeah, what we're going to want to do is 4 cups of water, get it hot, and right when it is about to boil is when you add the coffee. You're going to want to boil the coffee. I know, that is completely against the rules of coffee. Typically, you want to brew your coffee at 205 degrees. We're getting hot here. By the way, let's talk a little bit about All the Pretty Horses. I really think All the Pretty Horses is one of my favorite books this year. Cormac McCarthy is really something else. I now want to read all his books. We're also going to be using Trader Joe's Organic Wake Up Blend. This is my favorite store-bought brand. Normally I like to buy my coffee at local coffee houses and grind them fresh, but this is something else. And add a little more. And then we're gonna close that up there. I don't think we stir, I think we just let it sit and let the boil do its thing. 4 minutes of boiling. And even though I have this craving now for Cormac McCarthy and his writing, I think I'm going to read True Grit by Charles Portis. This is another classic Western. You know, I kind of want to stay in the genre of Westerns and get lost in that time period. Whoa! Whoa, we're letting it boil. Maybe I'll let it... Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh! Oh! True Grit tells the story of Maddie Ross, who was just 14 when the coward Tom Chaney shoots her father down in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and robs him of his life, his horse, and $150 in cash. Filled with an unwavering urge to avenge her father's blood, Maddie finds, and after some tedious finagling, enlists One-Eyed Rooster Cogburn, the meanest available U.S. Marshal, as her partner in pursuit, and they head off into Indian Territory after the killer. This book is only 223 pages long. That's a perfect size for a nice little revenge story. I'm really looking forward to that. Probably start in a couple days. One thing I learned about this method is there is no filter to catch the loose grounds when you pour a cup. We're going to let it cool off, and once it cools, we're going to add a little bit of cold water. And what that's going to do, it's going to allow the grounds to settle at the very bottom. So when you pour, you're not getting all those loose grounds at the top in your coffee mug. It'll allow for a smoother pour. Another thing that this brewing method does is it takes the acidity out of the coffee. That is Cowboy Coffee. Let's go talk about All the Pretty Horses and why I think it's one of my favorite books of the year. All right, we are here and we've got coffee. What is this story about? You know me, I don't like to spoil anything. I don't even like to give too many story and narrative details. This story is about 2 friends, 2 ranchers from Texas, and they travel south to Mexico, looking for a new life, going on a new journey. And I think this book takes place in the late 1940s. Also, if you didn't know, this book is the first volume in a trilogy. However, this can be read as a standalone book. I don't think you need to read volumes 2 and 3 in order to have it all make sense. Let's talk about the dialogue. The dialogue feels so real, like it was written for the characters. It's specifically for the characters' conversations. It isn't your typical dialogue that is just an expositional dump of, hey, this is the story, this is what's happening. No, these conversations feel so real, like they're between real people talking. Like this is a private conversation between these characters, and we, the reader, get a little peek inside that conversation. Not everything is spelled out to you. There's a lot of nuance and subtlety. You kind of have to piece things together. And there's a lot of silence. There's a lot of things left unsaid, kept to themselves, deep in thought. And you don't know what these characters are feeling or thinking. That's kind of hidden from the reader. It's not explained. And that all just kind of adds to this bleak and lonely tone of a story. Cormac McCarthy is a prime example of showing and not telling. He keeps a lot hidden. I really loved how McCarthy described the weather and landscapes and the vistas. I really appreciate when an author takes the time to paint the picture with the weather and the landscapes. Especially in this book, I feel like the landscape and weather are their own characters. They are just as important to the story as the characters are. I really loved how the actual characters, the people, were described. The way people moved and how they positioned themselves. You can picture exactly how these characters are sitting or moving, how a hand is placed, or how an elbow is leaned up against the dirt, or how someone's boots are crisscrossed, maybe how someone holds a cigarette. It's very descriptive in that sense, very straightforward, like you can just boom. It feels very much like a movie. And let's not forget my most favorite aspect of this book, coffee. There is so much coffee in this book. Instead of all the pretty horses, I feel like this book should be titled All the Cups of Coffee. Because characters, no matter what they're eating, they're drinking coffee. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Coffee, coffee, coffee. And I'm not complaining. And much like the drinking of coffee in this book, I really enjoyed the eating of meals. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The repetition of something so mundane. It was something tangible, and it made these characters much more human. You know, they got to eat. They got to eat to live. And the eating of meals really described the passage of time, very much like the weather. I've read many books that contain journeys. Characters starting at point A, ending at point B. Those are fun. And sometimes they're a bit predictable because the characters will state in the very beginning, hey, we got to go here. We got to pack up and travel here. Travel to this island. Climb this mountain. Get this sword. Find this dragon and save the princess. You know where they're going to end up. And that takes some of the intrigue out of it. With this book, it truly felt like a journey. Because I didn't know where these characters would end up or how they would end up. And again, it just added to that uneasy, unpredictable, lonely and distant tone. You know, John from Talking Story, I had a live stream with him a few days ago, a week ago now, and he was sharing with me all the little nuggets that he took away from this book. I was blown away with how he interpreted certain things. Different readers are going to gain different things, take away different lessons and messages from this book. Everyone is going to have their own unique experience with all the pretty horses. I know with my first time through, I loved it, but I know I missed a lot. A lot went over my head. So I feel like on a reread, whenever that may happen, it's going to be like reading another book, brand new experience. And that is what I feel makes a timeless classic. Something you can read over and over and over again and gain something new. Very much like The Last Unicorn here. I read this earlier this year. So many messages, so many undertones. I love that about reading too. When you reread a book, you gain something new from it. You notice things that you didn't notice before. You pick up on new details. Wow. Never saw that before. Just a whole new experience. Well, something I didn't announce at the beginning of this video. For those of you who do not know, this was the book for August. I have a little book club. Every month there is a book that is voted on or chosen, and that is the book that is read for the month. And at the end of the month we have a live stream. And I don't know when we will have the live stream for it, but I will make sure to announce that soon. I'm excited. I'm excited to hang out with you. Hear all the little details and subtleties and messaging that you took from this book. Thank you again for taking the time out of your day to hang out with me and hear my thoughts on All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy.